What's going on, everyone? So, Camp Crystal Lake is supposed to be a prequel to the Jason story. One of the things that is a big question is how are they going to implement the kills, right? Because we all have this expectation. It's a Friday the 13th movie, right? We're accustomed to Jason knocking off heads and going on these rampages and these killing sprees, right? But if they're doing a backstory pre-Jason and you have Pamela and maybe Elias and you're telling all these stories and all this stuff, right? Are people dropping bodies along the way? Like, how is that playing out? How is that gonna, play into the traditional sense, right? Because I'm sure that there are a lot of people, myself included, I wouldn't mind just like a good story-driven storytelling, Friday the 13th prequel. I wouldn't mind that at all. However, there is the part of me and many others, and I actually think could likely be the consensus, is that we need in the traditional sense, the traditionalists want the kills. You want to have the bodies taken, dropping and all that. So how do you go about that? Now, you could do something where maybe the mother or the father were killers, and that's something that I've talked about and touched on. But another idea that I was kind of working through in like videos, and I wanted to make this like a full video, is the potential of having these like flashbacks, right? So you have like modern time and then you have the flashback. And one way that I think could really work and make sense and kind of be a cool approach to this would be you have modern time, Jason Voorhees, you have Camp Crystal Lake, right? You have new campers, new counselors, all that stuff, right? So it's like a Friday the 13th movie, but you have these back and forth flashback sequences. So you have modern time, Jason's running through people, and then you have the flashback stories where, Pamela, and you're learning the story about Jason and how that became to be, and Pamela's life and all that stuff. But how do you connect the two? How do you weave the two? Well, I think it'd be as simple as sitting around the campfire, telling the story. Right? We have seen that in almost every Friday the 13th movie. Where they sit around the campfire and they tell the story of Jason and how he became to be and whatever, right? What if this time they all sit down, they sit around the campfire, somebody's getting ready to tell the story of Jason, and everyone's like, come on, we know the urban legend, we know Jason's out there in the woods and, takes out counselors and blah, blah. We know that story. Tell us something else. Tell us a different story. And, the storyteller, the narrator is like, okay, well, what about how Jason became to be? What about his family? What about his life growing up? What about the first killer, Pamela Voorhees, right? And you do this whole thing. And then now you kind of have the connections. And you could still have kills sprinkled throughout because you could have counselors and camp goers and stuff like that getting picked off by Jason, right? So you could have something where, I got to use the bathroom, keep telling the story, and they go to the bathroom and then boom, or, somebody tries to sneak away to, little, right? You could get something like that. And then Jason comes over and boom, like knocks him out, right? Like takes him out, right? You could have kind of these like, you don't want it to be kind of crazy where you don't like, okay, is this now or is this that? Like, you want it to kind of be something. But also a good indicator is like whenever you see Jason, it's modern time, right? Whenever you see Pamela and them, it's the flashback, right? To kind of differentiate the two scenarios. And I think that would just be an easy approach. I think that'd just be an easy way to kind of interwove these two versions if they go that route. Obviously, we don't know which direction they're going to go, or at least I don't know. I mean, I don't have any inside information or anything on it. Just the guy coming up with theories and ideas and just having fun conversations. So in that sense, right? Like, I think that could be something where, you kind of tie together and keep Jason in the film focused and still taking people out. So, again, the traditionalists of Friday the 13th, or just like the people that are expecting to see Jason and wanting to have the kills, and you're able to keep all the different versions of this audience, right? Those that are willing to listen and take on the storytelling, those that do just want to see Jason and, running through a camp. And no, you kind of keep it in a sense to where everybody's happy. And it really comes down to finding the proper balance of, kills to storytelling and having Jason do that and telling the story of Jason and Pamela Voorhees and, Elias Voorhees, if he's in this film and they don't change kind of the backstory of that, which is something else. We'll see how that goes. Did a whole video on Elias Voorhees. If you're interested in that, kind of, hoping that we see him in the upcoming film, or not film, but series, right? My concern is that if you end up having this series and you don't have Jason, one, and two, some type of kills, you run the risk of losing the audience rather quickly, right? Because yes, there's many of us that kind of know like this is a prequel story. This is probably going to be more Pamela centric, Pamela focused and whatnot. And many of us are okay with that. Many people are excited about that. But you also have a lot of people that aren't aware of this. You get a lot of people that, usually the general audience, they're going to see, oh, Camp Crystal Lake. Oh, hey, that's a image of Jason. Let me click this. Oh, it's a new, Friday the 13th thing, new Friday the 13th series or whatever. They click on it. They go to start watching it. And then they quickly realize like, wait, Jason isn't in this. Right now, you're starting to lose some of that audience. So in my opinion, I think you need to find that balance. You need to find kind of that middle ground to where all sides, all parties can kind of be happy and intertwine with what you want to get across, right? Because again, I run the risk, or I feel like there's this risk that you take if you don't have Jason in some capacity. And not just Jason, standing and lurking in the background, but I think you need to have Jason actually doing Jason things, right? I think you need to have Jason knocking some people blocks off and, pokey poke with the machete. And, I just do. I think that you're going to have it. And like, I want to see that too. I want to see Jason, in a recent capacity. I want to see Jason running around, poking people and punching heads off and right, like I do. I want to see the craziness and antics, and especially in modern time with my modern tech and effects and all that stuff. I think you could make a really good quality kind of Friday the 13th show that is a prequel, but has a nice balance to the whole Jason Voorhees and his story and stuff, and kind of just find this happy medium. And I think it's just a simple, hey. You get the typical, cliche of everyone sitting around the campfire and going, all right, here we go. So long ago, and boom, they tell the story. And then now you kind of have like the flashback and, the narrator's telling the story, but we're seeing it take place. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion and I pass a question to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? I'd love to hear thoughts and opinions. Do you love this idea? Hate this idea? Kind of mixed in the middle? Do you have another idea, another approach? I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out. So we enjoy these types of videos. And I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel. What are you doing? Hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.